Well, time now to bring in our power panel. We've got Luke Ball, former communications director for House Republicans, and Joe Cunningham, former Democratic congressman for South Carolina. Thank you both for coming on this morning. Joe, I want to go ahead and start with you. Is Congressman Richie Torres right? Is there too much hysterical resistance on the side of Democrats right now?
Look, I think he's absolutely correct. It seems, Democratic Party's been doing this for going on 10 years now. And the party seems to be resisting everything, including reality. And the reality is that there are some Trump policies that are wildly popular. 97% of Americans think that immigrants who are violent criminals should be deported. There's a lot of his policies that are popular, like eliminating tips for those in the food and bev industry. The executive order he came out with regarding health care, it may not have had as much teeth with it, but a lot of those points were wildly popular with Americans. And unfortunately, the Democratic Party seems to be just pushing against everything that Trump does and says. And look, when I was in Congress, I had 2 of my bills signed into law by President Trump. So I can't say with a straight face that everything he did and everything he said was bad, but by continuously opposing him, unfortunately, it shows that the Democratic Party is out of step with Americans on these issues that are popular. And secondly, by continuing to oppose him on everything, it unfortunately undermines what credibility the Democratic Party may have left with the voters.
And Luke, I'll get to you in a second here, but I want to highlight CNN's data analyst, Harry Enton. He's kind of sounding the alarm for Democrats with some more brutal polling numbers. Take a listen.
The party that is closest to your economic views, in November of 2023, it was the Republicans by 11 points. Now it's still within that range, still within that margin of error, plus 8-point advantage for the Republican Party. How is that possible, Democrats, after all the recession fears, after the stock market's been doing all of this, after all the tariffs that Americans are against? Are you kidding me?
Luke, your reaction?
Well, the first step to admitting that you actually need to move forward into recovery is admitting that you have a problem. And my friend Joe has been one of the only Democrats on the other side that has been willing to call out his own party. The Israelites wandered in the wilderness for 40 years, and Democrats are currently on track to beat that record because they have all of the results from the last election. They know what went wrong. They saw that the polling swung from 20 points, where Biden did 24 points up on young voters, and Kamala Harris only got 4 points up on young voters. They see what happened. They know went wrong, but they don't want to change their policies and amend the direction that they are going. And this Speaking with American Men study that they're doing and spending $20 million as if we're some long-lost people group down in the jungles of Madagascar, they could spend 20 minutes in a Bass Pro Shop and get the same information. Just speak to folks normally and listen to what they're saying. Adopt some of these policies and move forward with your party.
Yeah, and to your point, as Democrats try to figure out ways to reach out to men, they're still trying to figure out right now, why are young male voters bolting from the party and heading towards President Trump? Well, Tim Walz has been all over the headlines in recent days. He turned to his teenage son to get some answers. Take a listen.
I'm going to have a high school graduate with my son, Gus, and he's pretty in tune to this. But when he said this, he said, Dad, a lot of these young guys, especially, said they're not voting on the policy issues. They're doing it because there's a sense of excitement, a sense of thrill in this. I think Donald Trump understands belonging, understands groups. I mean, you look at it. He gives them a uniform, the red hat. He gives them some chants, some talking points, whatever. It's not that all that different than when we build sports teams in high school. You belong, you're part of this.
In the meantime, critics have been mercilessly mocking Democrats for spending $20 million to study how to talk to American men. And now there's a liberal group that's shelling out more than $4 million to listen to the concerns of working class voters in 20 states. It found, quote, a common perception among those in their focus groups is the idea that Democrats don't care about people like me, that their primary goal is for other groups they consider at risk who are not like me. Joe, I got a feeling you can save the party $20 million and maybe give them a little advice yourself on how to connect with men. What are your thoughts on that?
I only require just a small fraction of that 20 million too. I mean, look, you got to meet people where they are, right? I would tell the Democratic elite to come down from their ivory towers and speak to people. These these are people that have probably never been south of the Mason-Dixon line. They've never been to a Friday night football game, or they've never gone to Buc-ee's before. But you know, a lot of white men have, you know, turned their backs on the Democratic Party, especially after 2024, because of two reasons. Number one, how the Democratic Party spoke to them, and number two, what they spoke about. You know, if you're a white man who was not excited about Kamala Harris, you know, you'd often be called either a racist or a sexist, instead of just the fact that you couldn't connect with Kamala, or she wasn't speaking to anything that resonated. And secondly, you know, the party needs to actually speak to this block of voters about what they care about. You know, and a lot of it was the economy, and being honest with them and restoring that credibility.
Luke, Democrats are looking for somebody to emerge as the leader of the party right now. Who do you think has the best chance of that right now? And who do you think Republicans, maybe what are a few names Republicans would like to go up against in 2028?
I think that with the Democrats, people like Gavin Newsom have tried to reach across and speak to Republicans and people who voted for Trump, even unaffiliated and independent voters, and they've been mercilessly mocked by their own party. So even trying to open up a channel of dialogue and claw back some of this populist support that the president gained in the last election has been met with ridicule from the upper echelons of the party. To answer your question, I don't know. We're 6 months into this. The Democrats haven't had a centralized leader. 1 week it's Jasmine Crockett because she can fill the airwaves. The next week, Cory Booker can go to the Senate floor and hold his bladder for 24 hours and suddenly become the leader of the Democrat Party. It seems to change every week. It's like a long, drawn-out focus group. Republicans would probably like to go up against somebody like an AOC or a Bernie Sanders, one who is pulling the party radically to the left, not towards the middle where the moderates would rather have it be, because I think that you would even talk to some Democrats, and I don't want to speak for Joe, but he would probably submit that the party of today, the direction it's gone progressively, is not the party of a decade and 2 decades ago. The Republican Party's evolution has been towards populism, and we are now the party of the working man and woman in America. The Democrats are now the party of the elites, and they're the party of pulling the party so far to the left it's unrecognizable.
Joe, I'll give you the final word, about 15 seconds here. Who is the Democrat Party leader
Now, of
right
course,
now?
I mean, historically, I don't see one right now. I mean, historically, the Democratic Party was a bold party, was a party with ideas and vision, and they need to better articulate that. Instead of just going against everything Trump says and does, put forward your plan for the future and how to make American lives better and how to bring everyone together instead of marginalizing people.
All right, Joe Cunningham, Luke Ball, good to see you guys. Thank you both for coming on this morning. Good talk.
Thank you.